3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALK.
Did you know that if you talk about individual liberties, you might be an extremist?
I hope so.
If you advocate for states' rights, you might be an extremist.
Oh, good. Well, I mean,
If you want to make the world a better place, you might be an extremist. I have the list of 72 Obama
Oh, yeah. Well,
trigger warnings for.
And who was it stood up only this week and said he was in favor of states' rights and the 10th Amendment?
Extremists.
Yes.
What is that list again?
It's called, this is Obama's 72-point checklist for determining if you might be an extremist.
While they're reading your emails. That's what they're looking for.
May I see that list?
Sure.
You've got to post that up.
You're on. I haven't had a chance to. There's a lot going on.
And we all know.
There's this whole domicile thing.
Domicile. Hey, I got a lawyer gave his law library to CNHT.
Let's show the...
And I have one of the books here he gave us, and it's impossible to believe that this book even exists, but it says domicile. So this is called Corpus Juris Secundum. It's the body of law for America. And it actually has domicile written right there on the cover. Check for yourself. Tell your children you've seen it. And I might mail a copy to the New Hampshire State Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Or they can have this one if they're desperate.
But they won't read it.
They apparently they have their own way of.
They might sit on it to
interpreting
get a better view of their changing what domicile means.
They sit up so high already.
Not high, apparently not high enough. So
Wednesday I went to a Supreme Court hearing for the case is now called Anne Marie Guare. Guare is her name. This is a litigant from Bangor, Maine, and she's a student here in college in New Hampshire, and she wants to vote in New Hampshire and keep her residency in Maine. That's the new court case we have. It used to be Hannah Rivers versus State of New Hampshire back in 2012 when they filed that before the 2012 election, and the Supreme Court let it just drift by. We had a judge said, "Oh yeah, college students are mobile domiciled." I can't find mobile domiciled in the law anywhere, but he made this new invention called mobile domiciled and said the students don't have to get driver's licenses in New Hampshire or abide by any other statutes. Well, they just come here and they use their college dorm or someplace they're renting as their place to vote from.
So wouldn't this then invalidate the entire purpose of absentee ballots?
Correct. Yeah.
Unless you're actually outside the country and can't vote in Cambodia or wherever the hell you are.
Or outside of New
That's
Hampshire.
fine. So the proper approach should be a simple affidavit that you sign when you go to vote that says, "I solemnly swear that I have not taken or used an absentee ballot for any other state."
Well, we have that. It's called RSA 654-7. In your application, you state under penalty of perjury right now that you are not registered and not voting in any other state, and you're not registered in any other state. So that's what you swear to now. But on top of that, in 2012, the legislature said, we just got to make people aware of the fact that when you declare New Hampshire your domicile to vote, and that's what our Constitution says, when you've reached the age of 18 and you're an inhabitant of New Hampshire, you will vote from your domicile in the town or ward in which you are domiciled. Domiciled's the word. So this Anne Marie Guare is the new litigant for the ACLU and the League of Women Voters to allow non-residents, college students, to just vote here because they're going to school here. We're going to make it sound like there's a fuzzy meeting between resident and domicile. Your legal residency is your domicile. Your permanent residency is your domicile. You can only have one domicile. Once you declare it, that's it. So, in fact, I was talking to the former mayor of Bangor, Maine, yesterday on the phone, and he said that's exactly what the law is in Maine. So it's interesting. Now that we have Anne Marie coming to New Hampshire to vote, she'll be able to sign an affidavit saying that she lives in a certain location. If she doesn't have identification to prove it, She'll have a voter registration card, which apparently now, as of yesterday, I found out that voter registration cards are no longer public documents.
What?
Dave Scott got that from Bill Gardner and from the Dover town clerk.
When did they change that?
2015. That was emailed to me, so I have to go and get turned down in writing and have them confirm that you can't see a voter registration card. But the interesting thing is...
Wait a minute. Who made that change? Was that by statute?
Yeah, they say... Dave Scott sent me something saying it was done in 2013. 2015 is when it takes effect. So Dover has turned him down twice. When I sent him to the Dover City Hall to get copies of the voter registration cards for one of the two of the 40-some people that can't be found by first-class mail in the city of Dover after voting here, this is the 40-some people that we mailed same-day applicants. The mail came back undeliverable because it was no such address, was no such street, was no such house number. So we mailed them again. So there's 40 names on the checklist in Dover of people who are currently allowed to vote that currently cannot be reached by mail or found at an
find
address.
some deep pockets and sue.
That's where we're headed. You got to go federal. And I have two of them here that are interesting. Christopher Clarion and... there's another character here. There was two of them. Duncan Garmist. There are no such people. No one in America has the last name Clarion. That's a first name. And Duncan Garmist, there's no one in America named Garmist. There is a Garmischt, Germany. There is a Garmeis, which is kind of an Italian name. There's some people that name that. But not only does Duncan Garmist not exist as far as we can tell, neither does 25 School Street. And on the other one, neither does 84 Locust Street for Mr. Clarion. So we've mailed to them. So what I wanted to do was, well, heck, Dover, if you're going to let him be a voter there, can I see his voter registration card? No, you can't see his card. And oh, by the way, he's been removed. He's no longer on the checklist. So these two guys voted November 4th, 2014, and now they're no longer on the checklist with a fake ID and apparently a fake name. So all I wanted to do was simply find out what is the city of Dover using to tell who these people are. If you wanted to contact them, how would you do it? Because we certainly can't. So we were told that that information is now exempt from the right to know law. I'll confirm that Monday next week. I'll get turned down in writing so I can start a right to know case.
So I think
here's what's funny about this. Some of these people are on the checklist. Let's take somebody who was on the checklist, which was Jared Stephen Cram. If I went to Wilton and said, now, apparently go to Wilton and say, can I see Jared Stephen Cram's voter registration card? They would obviously tell me, oh, no, the law's been changed. I can't see it. But here's one from Pennsylvania. Right here, guys. That's a voter registration form for Jared. And here's his change of address in 2008. And here's his voting record. Now, all this, for a New Hampshire voter, I can't see any information about this guy. I can't see his signature. I can't see his birth date. I can't see his real address. I can't see the voter registration card. I can't see a same-day voter registration application. I can't see a certificate of certificate of domicile. You know, an affidavit saying where he really lives. I can't see any of that here in New Hampshire, but I can get all this from the other states. So this young lady that's suing the state of New Hampshire from the state of Maine to vote here in November of 2016. I can go to Maine and see all this information on her voter card there. So what is the purpose of New Hampshire saying you can't see any information regarding a voter in the state of New Hampshire, but a person from another state can vote here? So if I can go get their birth date and all the relevant information about that person from the other state, so what's the purpose of doing that? Other than to prevent me from finding out who they are.
And to prevent you from knowing that they voted here and there.
Right. That's the main purpose.
And so I think the town of Dover needs to be sued for failing to produce these records and for perpetrating a fraud upon the voters of Dover.
Not just Dover.
The whole state.
The whole state, the AG, the Secretary of State, everybody who's involved in this fraud has to be brought to court, and they have to be embarrassed. And this is just ridiculous.
But I think you pick on a town, one that's not very well off, and bankrupt it.
Well, we're going to do Dover.
And bankrupt it, because if they are deliberately hiding records, whether under cover of law or not, we know that this person was allowed to vote, and now they are not willing to prove that this person was, in fact, legal to vote. then the town is perpetrating a fraud upon its own voters, and it needs to be punished.
They say they're just following the law. So this law has gotten more strict. Every couple of years, something else I can use to identify a voter has been removed from the checklist. That's why, starting back in 2006, I started to pursue these people out of state. This is Jenna Rackavan is a voter in Dover. Jenna Rackavan, here's you can pass the stuff around. Jenna Rackavan voted in Dover from an address which does not exist. Her name is on the checklist. She's also a voter in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. So I called down there recently. This is her voter history from Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, in Schuylkill Township, on Bayberry Drive, right across from the G Lodge where I used to eat breakfast. She is still a registered voter there. I have Connor Dieter Leeds information here. Connor Dieter Leeds voted in Dover in 2014. He's currently a registered voter in Willimantic, Connecticut. So I can get I know his birth date. I know when he voted last in Connecticut. All that information is on the internet. In New Hampshire, if I want a copy of the statewide voter database, can't get it. It's illegal for me to have that. If I want to go to the Secretary of State's office and look something up, I can see it but not copy it. All I had to do was send one single letter to the state of Vermont. They emailed me their current statewide voter database required under motor voter, HAVA, all the federal elections law. So what we've done in New Hampshire is we've pretty much stripped my right to see who else is voting. That denies me my right to vote, because my right to vote another voter who I believe isn't a real voter, my right to do that is equal to my right to vote. So the day I can't challenge another voter who doesn't live here or gave a fake name and a fake address, I've lost my right to vote. So suddenly, I become the victim. We all become victims. If we live in New Hampshire, we're domiciled in New Hampshire, my driver's license says New Hampshire, I am subject to jury duty in New Hampshire, which Jenna Rackavan would not be, Connor Dieter Leeds would not be, or somebody's keeping them off the list so they don't get pulled. Jared Stephen Cram used to be registered in New Hampshire, but the Secretary of State's office, when they heard that I was pursuing him, called the town of Wilton and had him removed upon their own investigation. And I don't think we've announced this before, but I have those emails. I sent a right-to-know request to the Secretary of State's office, and they sent me 5 emails that they sent to Wilton to have Jared removed. Now, as far as I know, Jared Stephen Cram did not send a letter to the town of Wilton saying, take me off. The Secretary of State's office did that after hearing me talk about Jared Stephen Cram on WLMW 90.7 FM on October 10th of last year. By the 21st, he was off the checklist.
Do we have access to those emails?
I've sent you everything, and right now we're going to go public with everything we have. We're going to go public with the fact that the Secretary of State's office is trying to protect low-life, scumbag, vote thief Jared Stephen Cram. Jared Stephen Cram registered to vote in New Hampshire in 2002 and ran for state rep. He's been a registered voter in Pennsylvania since 2005 at least, because that's as far back as the Philadelphia records go that they sent me. But he's been a registered voter in 2005 all the way up to 2014. And he was voting here in 2012. He was on the checklist in Wilton until 2014 when the Secretary of State's office pulled him off. So this is from Philadelphia County, Pennsylvania, 2005 through 2014, Jared Stephen Lowlife Vote Thief Cram, an attorney. I turned him in to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court Bar Association. They sent me multiple letters back, send us in more information, and it's all labeled confidential. Well, that's out the window now. They sent me a letter saying they're not going to pursue this or going to dismiss this case after sending me several, I think I got 3 letters from them. Here's a typical one. This is to advise you that Jared Stephen Cram, Esquire, has been sent a letter of inquiry in regard to the complaint you filed with this office. Mr. Cram now has an opportunity to respond, after which we may contact you for additional input. And they did, and I sent them basically the same stuff. Cram was registered in 2 states. That's a violation of state law in New Hampshire. That's a violation of federal law because you've lied on your that's U.S. Code 42-1973I for you attorneys out there. That's a federal law regarding perjury in federal elections. 2012 was a federal election. So Jared Cram has worked this system like thousands of other people do in New Hampshire, and he was protected by the Secretary of State's office as the courts are now protecting these people. So this is something everybody in New Hampshire has to know. We're going to hand out all the details, and every time one of these people tries to vote in New Hampshire, I'm going to peg them back at their own state. Now, Jared Cram, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court Disciplinary Board is not going to take any action against him. I'm going to send the same information to TD Bank where he works in Philadelphia. So they may or may not take an action. We might have somebody at TD Bank that says, gee, there's two opportunities for progress here at the bank. There's Jared Stephen Cram, who's always seems to be on the internet for being a vote thief, right? And then there's this other person. So this is called street justice, Jared. You've been informed by the Supreme Court that I complained against you, and they said that they were not going to proceed because I couldn't show that he voted in 2 states in the same election, which I did. So that's their, they've washed their hands of this. I thought they were a good board because they disbar like a dozen attorneys every month for cheating clients and for drug habits and stuff. I thought they might take some sort of an action. They haven't. I've waited 5 months for the letter to come through saying we're not going to pursue this. And now I can go full bore at Mr. Cram and the rest of these lowlifes, Jenna Rackavan and some of these people here. Of the 40-some, we're going to pursue in the city of Dover. We had a hearing with a ballot law commission, and the purpose was to petition the ballot law commission to order Dover to purge their voter list, to take names like this off, like Manchester did in 2014. We turned over names. We used to give names over the internet, over the radio, of voters from 1200 Elm Street. That was a out-of-state voter nest. So the Democrat Party rented multiple rooms for multiple years and ran their election campaigns in Manchester out of 1200 Elm Street. One of those people came here from South Carolina. Her name's Alexandra Perez Caballero. She works for a police department in South Carolina.
I remember her.
Here's all her information, her birth date, where she lives. I can get that from Alexandra Perez Caballero. I can get that from South Carolina. I can't get that here. So New Hampshire's going to have to explain why you want to protect out-of-state voters that steal my vote in New Hampshire. Tell us why. The court system wants to do that. The ACLU wants to do that. The League of Women Voters wants to do that. And the Secretary of State's office wants to do that. Tell us why. That's so important to you. If you're that desperate to win an election here in New Hampshire, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Voters show up and shoot down millions of dollars worth of bonds, but these same top-ticket votes all go to left-wing liberals, because that's who these people vote for. When they come here to New Hampshire, they're not voting on school issues and bond issues, even though they can. They're voting top of the ticket. Senate, House, Governor, and then they're out. So that's where you're going to lose. The Republican Party doesn't really care about this, apparently, but they're going to lose all their top-ticket elections to college voters from other states, because this gets worse every single election cycle. We've been tracking it since 2000, and I don't think anybody really wants to debate this anymore. When we sat before the Ballot Law Commission, all they wanted to do was get rid of us. And luckily, Steve Labonte was there. He's the head honcho of the Election Law Division of the Attorney General's office. He came to defend Dover and oppose our request to have Dover's checklist purged. And what he had done was, the first thing out of the mouth of the head of the Ballot Law Commission was, we're only here for one thing today, to see whether or not the city of Dover is following election law. And I said, great. How can they? Because the Attorney General's office, the guy sitting to my right, sent a memorandum out to all election officials. No one is to be turned away. If you come in to vote, you're not to be turned away under any circumstances, is what the memorandum said. It said if someone comes in doesn't have an ID, they're to be given the opportunity to sign a domicile affidavit. It doesn't say they shall sign. They're to be given the opportunity to sign. So if they decide not to, they still get to vote? Who's in charge of elections, Mr. Gardner? Some schlub at the Attorney General's office? Or you, Mr. Gardner? Who just admitted we have a problem with drive-by voting. So I think some of us in New Hampshire hear the freight train coming behind them, but we're going to go federal. There's only way to get you guys to stop doing this is go to federal court. I'm waiting for the Supreme Court's response or opinion on this case, the Anne Marie Guerre case, which was Hannah Rivers. That's called the mobile domicile case, where they're arguing the fact that voters here have to register their car. Oh, no, they don't. Well, when that case is decided by the Supreme Court, they'll either do one of two things. Pretend that out-of-staters have a right to vote here, or they'll say, no, your domicile is your legal address. If you're domiciled in another state, that's where you vote. Put on your big boy pants and get an absentee ballot, students. I don't know that they're going to do that. From sitting through that case, I saw one Supreme Court justice say, right there in front of me, and Labonte, the guy who's supposed to be defending our vote, the Supreme Court justice says, well, all you need in New Hampshire to vote is to be an inhabitant of the age 18. The rest of that sentence is, and you will vote in town or ward in which you are domiciled. It's clear, and that's the way it is all over the country. They might use resident, they might use different terms, but when you go to vote, you are declaring your legal residence. What's on your driver's license? Oh, the other thing they were asking is, what does a driver's license have to do with voting? Well, in many other states, the DMV and your voter registration are the same place.
The problem now is, with all of these illegal aliens now being given driver's license, you've just added 541,000 illegal voters who are now legal, because all you have to do is show a driver's license.
It'll be 9 million before 2016. They're going to try and add another 9 million. They cannot pry the votes they need to control this country out of the existing citizens. They have to bring in people from other countries and let them vote illegally. Well, in New Hampshire, I intend to stop them as much as I possibly can and make at least the college students and political activists from out of state pay the price. So I'm not done with Mr. Cram. If he doesn't like this, sue me. I'm at 61 Tubbs Hill Road, Deering, New Hampshire. Have your attorney or the ACLU in Hampshire send me a letter. Let's do this in public, because I think that's what they fear the most. Because I have your voting record, Mr. Cram, from Pennsylvania. I have Jana Rekavans from Pennsylvania. I have a ton of them from Connecticut. And I just ran into a 2013 college students from Connecticut. Somebody has a website and put all the students from Connecticut who go to UNH on a website with their name and address and the town they're from. So I've been matching that with the Connecticut voter database.
They made it easy.
And they made it so easy it's not even funny. I've got a stack of it here anyway. I can show you later.
But there's something else that's thank you, Steve. There's something else that's bothering me about this stuff. You talk about domicile, and so they claim to be domiciled in New Hampshire and they go and vote. So here's the thing: they're living in their dorm rooms in whatever town it is, Durham, okay,
Dover,
okay,
Somersworth,
and so they go out and vote. Now, a few years ago, they went out and voted in Durham and Dover, where they were domiciled, which you could make that case, albeit tenuous, especially if they had voted somewhere else. But in 2012, it was different. In 2012, and I think in 14, they put them on buses and spread them out where they could impact state rep elections across the state.
Yeah, I've heard people complain about that in Dover, specifically, the buses, but I don't follow.
Well, so that means that not only are they claiming to be domiciled here for the purpose of transient voting, but they are voting in locations different from where they are claiming to be domiciled, or alternatively, they are falsely claiming to be domiciled in some other small town than where they are living for college. So this means you've actually got two layers of fraud on these people, and we should be able to get them for it twice over.
I just talked to somebody who he didn't give me the permission to use his name, but he gave the name of two voters they caught voting in his town and another town. He said, we got the documentation. I gave it to Labonte, and I haven't heard anything back. So at some point, your Attorney General's office has to respond. The law says the Attorney General's office may investigate voter fraud. It doesn't say shall. So they're taking the option of, we catch one or two people a year, we'll just say that's what it is, and all of our peeps will repeat the same thing. There comes a point where in a federal suit, you go, okay, this gentleman here has been handed voter fraud proof on several occasions and chosen not to prosecute it. But for me, if I try and challenge like we did in 2002 up in Hanover, if I try and challenge like we did before, there's now a memorandum that says that's against the law and I can be arrested for it. So they're trying to limit my ability to challenge. They're trying to limit CNHT's ability to pry into records by eliminating almost anything. And they don't want the general public to join in this, because you can't look up New Hampshire's database like you can in Vermont or Connecticut. You can look up your neighbor. So the people that have absolute knowledge about something, about potential voters can't look it up in the state of New Hampshire. You can't get that information.
How do the candidates get the voter checklist now? Then?
They get it according to where they're running for office. So if you're running from a Senate district, all you're going to get is your Senate district. You're not going to get statewide.
So what we need is a bunch of friendly candidates to get...
we need to sue the state of New Hampshire to show why it's important to keep the paid-for by New Hampshire taxpayers statewide database secret, unlike any other state. I can go to Connecticut and find out.
Mm-hmm.
I can go to Pennsylvania and find out. I got Jenna Rakovans right here. I got right off the database, right off the internet, the page. Once you have their birth date, some don't even need the birth date. Connecticut, you just put the name in. You follow down the list of names till you have your name, and it says, here you go. You match it with a town, and you match it with their approximate birth date, and you know who they are. And then when you go on the internet, you say, look up Alexandra Perez Caballero. I know her mother's name, let's say, is Marie, and Marie lives at Crooked Bridge Lane. Well, guess what? So does she, Crooked Bridge Lane. Well, there's Mom and the daughter. Mom's been a registered voter since 1975 or 80, and she registered to vote in 2009, came here and voted in 2012, went back and voted there in 2014. Some of the people we've caught have not re-registered in their home state. Like Brian Gregory Griffith, the attorney that was voting at Martha Fuller Clark's voter fraud motel. I can't find him voting in Arkansas again. He's smart.
Wow.
Because he knows that we would track him from Arkansas to Martha Fuller Clark's house back to Arkansas, right?
So
there's your.
So he's basically invalidated his own.
Yeah, he's not voting anymore. Yeah, there's like 4 of them like that I caught that haven't re-registered. Sarah Ostino, she's from Florida. She voted from Meredith at the home of 2 postal employees.
In fact, if we allow our flexible domicile, if they come here, declare here, and vote here, as long as they vote here again and don't vote back home, or don't vote in 2 places in the same year, they're not breaking our laws as they're currently implemented.
No, there's a case called the Neuberger case out of Hanover in 1972, and the federal court heard that, and the federal court said students, as long as they are otherwise qualified, that means domiciled, can vote in the state of New Hampshire. So we're saying if you're a college student, then become qualified. Declare this your domicile. Abandon the previous domicile. Don't stay registered there. Here's the list of college students from UNH or from Connecticut. The first page has 50 names. I caught 8 from the first page registered in Connecticut. So each one of these little goobers right here, each one of these is going to get a letter to the state saying, oh, by the way, if I catch them registered here, and then I get to look into their voter history because it's right on the database.
All right.
On the internet.
We're going to keep you up to date on this. Lots going on. We'll be writing about it. I'm going to take this to watchdog.org, too, because those people need to read about this fun story as well. Welcome to GrokTALK. Make sure you check us out on Facebook and Twitter. We're going to come right back with our good friend Kimberly Morin, and we will be right back. Stay tuned.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
We are struggling. Rising healthcare costs are part of the problem. Senator Jeanne Shaheen helped create this mess we're in. As a state senator, her bill chased 21 insurers out of our state. It reduced our choices, raised prices for New Hampshire families, and when Jeanne Shaheen supported Obamacare, it limited access to 10 of our 26 hospitals, reducing our choices again. Tell Jeanne Shaheen she's made healthcare worse. Few things are as important as finding the right doctor. And under Obamacare, that's harder than ever. Over a third of our hospitals no longer available. Our doctors no longer covered. Fewer choices, longer drives. No state has been harder hit than us. And even after watching it impact New Hampshire, Congresswoman Ann Custer still supports it. Call Ann Custer. Tell her Obamacare isn't working for New Hampshire.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Grok TV.